It's 6:30 and I'm going to call the School District of Milton Board of Education meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
A motion from John, a second from Jen. I think that's who I heard first. Any questions, changes? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have 4 sets of minutes to approve tonight. I would entertain a motion to do them one by one or all together.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting held on December 8th, 2025, and the special meetings held on December 15th, 2025, December 17th, 2025, and January 5th, 2026 as presented.
Second.
So I have a motion from Rick, a second from Tracy. Any questions, changes? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Vouchers.
I move to approve general checking account vouchers totaling $1,724,908.52 as presented.
Second.
A motion from Tracy, a second from John. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. We are on to student council reports. And for the future, we do have a microphone for you. Okay. If you want to set it up, then you don't have to go up to the mic, up to the podium, but it's up to you.
Okay, hi board members. We have some fun things coming up at the high school this trimester. We have Winter Week, February 2nd through the 6th, and this is where we really focus on and appreciate Special Olympics along with our winter sports. Student Council partners with the MHS Unity Team to provide a very fun week with activities, dress-up days, and assemblies. Tomorrow morning, there's an academic breakfast for some of our students to congratulate them on their academic success during their high school career. And lastly, the junior class has also started planning prom and is figuring out the details for the dance, like the date and theme. Any questions?
Thank you. We have nobody today for public comment, so we will move on to the superintendent's update.
I have a few things that I want to highlight in the Red Hawk highlights. Last week was our first week back from break, so we're back in swing of things after our winter break. The Milton Middle School Unity Team is kicking off their annual Polar Plunge event and drive. That will take place in Lake Monona on February 14th. And they're looking for donations and pledges for their plunge. Over the last 12 years, the Milton Middle School Unity Team has raised over $50,000 towards Special Olympics in Wisconsin through their Polar Plunge. So we encourage parents, community members to reach out to the Middle School Unity Team if they're interested in. And a special highlight is that former band director, Mr. DeVoe, joined. And he played alongside both his grandson and great-grandson in alumni band. And so it's a good reminder that our music program has influenced many generations across our school district. And then another great event is coming up on Saturday, January 24th. The Milton High School Show Choir Competition, Rock the Rock, will take place. Again, that's on Saturday, January 24th. There are 18 show choirs from across the region that will be performing, and anyone from the community who's interested in attending is welcome to join. One highlight from athletics, Milton High School boys basketball player Colin Branch was nominated for High School National Boys Basketball Player of the Week through Sports Illustrated. In the voting, Colin came in 4th place in a field of 14, so congratulations to Colin. Any questions, board members, on any of that?
Not a question, but a comment to the board. I think all of you, this is no secret to all of you that I'm familiar with show choir. It's a fantastic event and a great day. I will, as always, be there just about every hour. So if you guys want to come, reach out to me. I'll be glad to show you the ropes. It's a great day. It's a great way for the board to see a ton of people. And there's a couple of strategic times that might make sense to go. You can see a lot of people and have a lot of fun. I think, Rick, I've seen you there before. So yeah, just throw that invitation out there. We've been looking for ways to get exposure as a board. That's a great opportunity. And Chelsea, since I made that public invite, would you make sure that there's a quorum just in case if you need it?
What's the date on that again?
Not this Saturday, but next Saturday. And it runs literally like 8, 9 in the morning until like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So lots of time to be there. There's some very strategic times to come though, where there's going to be a lot of really cool things happening. That's it.
Anyone else? All right, we will move on to Jen and the ICCSS committee report.
All right, so this group met last week and we had one item on our agenda, and Whitney is here and she's going to go ahead and walk us through the open enrollment space limitations for special education.
Thanks, Jen. So as a committee, we went through the space limitations for special education based on the board policy that was created last year. So we look at creating space requirements with our caseloads for our special education teachers and our related service providers. So that's based off of policy 5113. Which basically states that in a January board meeting, we will look at those numbers, decide our space limitations, and then our process for if families open enroll their students, and the process that we do to look through each IEP to see if we have space based on the special education services within those IEPs. Something to take note of as we get started is that we in the past, when we looked at this last January, we had talked about cross-categorical special education services and then ID special education services. And we're changing up some terminology up here because ID special education services are not truly just for students who have an intellectual disability as their category label. And we can't put caps on based on labels for special education either. So when we look at that, you'll notice Pre-Flight Academy, which we've talked about that before with our early childhood 3-year-olds. Our guided flight programming is what would have previously been known as ID programming. So when you see guided flight, that's what that's looking at. And then our SOAR program is for our students who are beyond 18. That beyond 18 programming, and then cross-categorical, the same as how we've discussed it in the past. All right, so just to start, just some information about current caseloads and ratios. Last January, when those caps were set, it looks at current numbers and projected numbers, right? And so when we looked at that, the reason of looking at our current ratios and enrollment is to check to make sure that our projections were accurate. And in this slide and the next, we are at cap for all of those areas that we had indicated we would be capped at, with the exception of that middle school guided flight programming. Thank you. All right. Initial evaluation data, we just look at to determine those projections of knowing how many students typically we evaluate within a school year and the percent of those that qualify for special education services. So the new data from last year is that we had 86 initial evaluations for special education, and only 13 of those initial evaluations did not qualify for services. Early childhood, we talked a little bit about it. Committee is one of those kind of hard ones to be able to predict because our students in early childhood do not all start September 2nd. They start in early childhood programming when they turn 3. So whenever their birthday falls throughout the school year is when they start. But we had 57 early childhood evals last year and only 7 did not qualify. Looking at our special education trends, our numbers have stayed fairly consistent across the board. Some bubbles in different areas, but nothing nothing abnormal that we wouldn't expect to see. Open enrollment, special education trends. When we look at our number of students who are open enrolled who receive special education programming, this year we are currently at 41, which is 9.3%. That number is a little bit below the last couple of years, but not abnormal when you look at the trend. So we started to kind of increase a little bit ever since the 1920 school year. So this is the first year that we saw kind of more of a dip from that 53 to 51 and now down to 41, but not inconsistent from what we've seen in the last few years. All right, recommendations for caseload ratios for next school year. These are the exact same ratios that were used from last school year, are the same ones we're going to use for this school year. As a reminder, DPI doesn't set recommendations for caseload ratios, so this information is gathered from historical caseload data that we have across the district, from looking at any consideration that DPI makes in some of their suggestions, and then looking at area districts as well to figure out what their caseloads are typically capped at. So those areas are up there. The only difference is that last year we looked at, we called it 4K through 5th grade for elementary, and we called it 6th through 8th grade for middle school. This year we call it how we staff it, which is that we have, when we look at the numbers, we'll have 4K through 3rd grade, and then 4th through 6th, 7th through 8th. These are just rollover projections of what we're anticipated to have by straight up numbers. So if we just took the number of students that we have in 4th grade and rolled those up to 5th grade, those are the numbers that we're looking at for next year. But that doesn't take into consideration the students who will still qualify throughout this school year and the typical number of move-ins that we have throughout the year as well. And we noticed that especially at Milton West this year, we've talked about we had an exceptional amount of students move in over the summer. So we don't just take the rollover projection numbers of at face value. If you keep scrolling, Chelsea, we have what we do, one more, is we add 3 to that. So 3 is the number that we took last year to figure out what we anticipate in move-ins, new referrals from now until the next school year starts. And then the first few slides, we saw that number was very accurate as far as where our caseload caps would be. So if we look at the rollover projection and the 3 for the new move-ins and referrals, we have no space in any of our programming except for 1. And that 1 space would be at our high school level for our guided flight or SOAR. So that is our students who have more intense needs and require more intensive programming. So there would be 1 space in that program, but no space in any other programs throughout the district. So we shared some information at the committee meeting. Tonight it's just to get information out there and to have that discussion if there are any questions, and then there'll be a follow-up at the next board meeting for some action to vote on based on this recommendation. Just as a reminder, that even when we set that policy in place, that any IEP of a student who is open enrolling, we review it in its entirety. So we look through the whole thing to see if we have space for a student that has IEP services in those areas to be able to determine if we have the space at the time. Any questions?
Winnie, I have a question. So when I look at this, and please correct me if I'm reading this wrong, is that we would have 1 spot available for an open enrolled student.
Correct.
How is that determined?
So it's based on looking at rolling over numbers from this year, next year. Yeah.
Sorry, how would you choose that student? So if you only have one spot available, I guess, is it best to say we're just not going to allow open enrollment this year because we only have that one, or?
So it would have to be a student who's in high school who needs more of that intensive programming. Based on the way that our caseloads are set up and how we staff, that's what we would have availability for. So like this school year, last January, we said we would have 2 spaces in our more intensive program at the middle school level, based on where those caseloads fell in our projections. And so this year, it would be a space at the high school.
And if we were to receive multiple requests, how is that determined? How do the families understand the requirements and
Yep.
the limitations?
So if there's multiple requests, there's a wait list process. So it's part of the policy to look at those pieces in there.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Thank you so much, Whitney.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to an update on the board development session. On January 5th, the board met with WASB consultant Randy Gutenberg. He led an exercise on the process of setting norms specifically for the school district of Milton's board. Randy is now in the process of organizing the information that we gave him that night. Once completed, he will return a draft to the board, and then the board will adopt a set of norms for their work going forward. Is there anything that anyone on the board wants to add or update that I missed? All right, we'll move on to the WASB State Convention, which is next week. And the board and some members of the district admin team will be attending the State Education Conference in Milwaukee. All members of the school board will be attending 1 or more days. On Wednesday, January 21st, this is to let the board know that's the day we know everybody will be there. So I'm hoping to invite you all to lunch at the Miller Time Pub and Grill. If you would let me know if you're not able to attend, because I'm going to go down early and reserve us a table so that I can get an appropriate count. I will share a summary of the event at the January 26th board meeting. Any questions?
Annette, for lunch, are you aiming for that 12 o'clock number, right, when the general
when
session dismisses?
Yes, yep. I'll go down before.
Dr. Smith, and for the board, is there any appetite? I would be willing to take the agenda and put it into a spreadsheet and then have people put names next to what they're going to attend for the purpose of trying not to have to diversify. You got 7 of us going. It'd be kind of silly if like 5 of us show up at the same thing. If I knew Joe was going to something, I might go, okay, that's covered. I'll go over here. If there's an appetite, I would be happy to put that together. If everybody wants to just do whatever they want to do, that's okay too.
I see a couple of heads nodding.
It's what I typically do when I take people to conferences is just say,
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
way to maximize our coverage there. Okay, I'll throw that together in the next couple of, it's okay to share that document out. Well,
Do you want to send it to Chelsea?
okay, I'll send it to Chelsea.
Please.
I've heard. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Not a question, Annette, but just a reminder that our Red Hawk media team was chosen to do the highlight, which is pretty cool. So
So yeah, we'll have, I think, 4 students and several staff there to help and kind of guide them. So it's pretty exciting.
Jeremy, do you know if they'll be wearing anything Milton so we can identify them?
They have brand new Milton Red Hawk gear, or Milton Red Hawk media gear.
Perfect. Perfect.
It might be interesting to have the admin list as well, what ones they're attending, so we know to look for them. If the admin team could add to that spreadsheet, that might be helpful.
I'll see then and let them take it from there.
Thank you. Now we move on to update and discussion on superintendent hiring process. And I'd like to introduce Scott, who is from HYA and who is going to share a bit of background and information about what we've been doing so far, which includes a job posting, the contract, and a few other things. And Scott, thank you. Welcome to Milton, and we are glad to meet you in person.
Well, first, thanks for having me, and thanks for choosing HYA to do your search or work with you on your search. My name is Scott Winch. This is my 4th year of working with HYA. Prior to that, I've been a superintendent in Wisconsin for 21 years. 18 of those were in Stratford, Wisconsin. And then I was up in Niagara, Wisconsin before that, which is about as far in the Northeast as you can get. And then after I retired in Stratford, I was the interim superintendent in Owen-Withee for a couple of years. And then now just doing this. So my partner, Mike Ritchie, he's been about 26 years as a superintendent in Wisconsin. He's a vice president of HYA. He couldn't be here tonight. He's in Kansas. He's working on their Department of Education search with them. So you get me tonight, and but I'm happy to be here. As Annette said, I'll go through a little bit of the process and what HYA does and things like that. And I know we're going to be going through the planning meeting agenda tonight, which is basically our next step. But so far, we've had a couple of Zoom meetings with Annette, and we've gotten, and Chris was with us too, right? Yeah. There he is. Hi. And so we've gotten things kind of with the posting. We'd like to have that, if it's approved tonight, we will get it posted before the convention. And I have a flyer in my folder that I can show everyone that we will have at the convention at our booth that we use to promote your job. So hopefully we can get that posting done tonight. And then we just put a little promotional flyer together for your district. And if you guys are okay with us doing that, we will have that out at the convention and go from there. So then after we get going with this tonight, we're going to go through the planning meeting agenda. That usually takes 45 minutes to an hour. And basically we're just trying to get the dates locked in, trying to find out what focus groups that you folks want us to talk to, meet with, in person, virtual, all those type of meeting spaces. We're happy to accommodate. So that's kind of where we're at with the planning meeting agenda. Following that, you'll probably get an email from me tomorrow morning as board members as we kick off the search part of it. We want to do an individual interview with each of you. And basically we ask the same questions for any group or any individual that we talk to. And that would be, what are the strengths of the Milton School District? What challenges are facing the Milton School District, or what challenges may be coming down the road? And then finally, what characteristics would you like to see in your next superintendent? So those individual interviews can be on whatever works in your schedule. Takes about 15 or 20 minutes usually. So you'll get that email from me tomorrow, and we'll set them up via Google Meet or just a phone call, whatever you prefer, and get that ball rolling. So I'd like to get that done before the end of January for sure, but if we can get some done this week or even early next week before we go to Milwaukee, that would be great. So the other part of the search that we just wanted to touch on tonight is the confidentiality of the search. You should have all gotten, did Stacy send you all the link to the portal and you were all able to get into that okay and everything? So everything in there is password protected for the board members and anybody that was identified by the board to receive that information. And just a friendly reminder to everybody that is a confidential, especially the candidates that apply, because that's one of the first things that they will ask Mike and I is, when will our names be made public? And so we really try to keep everything confidential as much as we can until we get into that interview process. So does anybody have any questions on the process? I'll get into much more detail in the committee meeting after the meeting, so I don't want to delay this meeting too much, but happy to answer a couple questions if anybody has any.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
So the superintendent hiring committee has been working, and in early December, Superintendent Rich Dahman announced his plans to retire at the end of the current school year. Following that announcement, the board immediately began the process to select a search firm to ensure a new superintendent will be in place by that time and to ensure a smooth leadership transition. Over the past several weeks, the board superintendent hiring committee thoroughly reviewed recommended search firms and brought 2 strong candidates for the full board to review: Hazard, Young, Atia, and Associates and McPherson and Jacobson. At a meeting on Monday, January 5th, the Board of Education approved partnering with Hazard Young Atia and Associates to support the superintendent search and hiring process. The board's superintendent hiring committee met on Tuesday, January 6th to develop a contract with HYA. And the contract was in your attachments for tonight. Following approval of the contract and job posting, the board will work with HYA to finalize the superintendent search timeline and identify opportunities for staff and community input. And again, that meeting is tonight and will start as soon as the board meeting is completed. And then we will continue to bring that information to each board meeting. So you're kept up to date with each process. Chris, do you have any other questions? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve the contract and to approve the job posting.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Hazard Young Atia and Associates as presented. $19,500 with an additional $3,000 for possible additional daily expenses, amount not to exceed $22,500.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion from Rick and a second from John. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the superintendent job posting from Hazard Young Atia and Associates as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Rick and a second from Tracy. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, and thank you, Scott, for being at our meeting today. All right, we will move on to the Human Resource Committee update.
HR committee met last week on January 7th. We just had one item on the agenda. It's is a memo in board docs, and Chris is here to speak to us about it. Chris.
Thanks, Rick. So on January 7th, like Rick shared, we met and discussed the district's current retirement tiers and discussed projections of existing health insurance premium caps related to the benefit duration for our retired staff members. As the district approaches 3 years since implementation, health insurance premiums have risen significantly beyond what we have experienced before. With the districts potentially experiencing a third year of consecutive 9.9% premium increases, the retirement-specific health insurance maximums are being exhausted quickly every year. So you'll see with the attachments that come with the memo, there's 3 green sheets that were approved back in April of 2023. And so look, in referencing those, Tier 1A, retirees receive district's health insurance contributions that are capped at fixed amounts, $32,300 for a single, $76,000 for a family. And that is for our teaching staff and our support staff. Once a retiree reaches the applicable maximum contribution, depending on what they have elected, the retiree becomes responsible for the full cost of the health insurance premiums. So now those individuals that are under Tier 1A may continue to elect health insurance, but they would, again, be responsible for those entire costs of those premiums, following those maximums, depending on what they have elected. So you'll see that when you look at page 2, the table outlined the projected duration that shows Tier 1A retirees are projected to reach the maximum caps before the end of their 48-month benefit period, requiring them to pay for the remaining months of their benefit eligibility. And you'll see that under the 2026 and 2027, those are projections that the business office and the human resources department have reviewed and outlined if, again, we continue to see those 9.9% increases coming from Dean Health Insurance. So then looking at the second table towards the end of the memo, you'll see the referencing the district's financial exposure for this population if all eligible employees in each tier elected to retire. The max exposure for single represents the cost if all eligible employees took single coverage. And then you'll see the max exposure for family. And then the third category is the max blended, represents a blended calculation reflecting our current staff distribution in single and family health insurance plans. Again, these are projections because we don't know who is going to be retiring or what their needs are at retirement or during the retirement benefit period. So at this time, the administration is not making any recommendations to change these thresholds. The Human Resources Department will be scheduling annual retiree meetings for prospective staff that are looking to retire at the end of the school year. Once the district's insurance rates are known for the 26-27 year, communication will be shared out with current retirees, informing them of the new rates and also meeting again with those prospective employees to see if they are still interested in retiring at the end of the year once those rates are known. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. We will move on to new business. The first of which is drawing for lots for ballot order for spring election, April 7th, 2026.
Them the same. Sure. No pressure. Okay, so Tracy will be first on the ballot.
And just for the record, Ed will be second, so we get that in the record. Thank you very much. Next, we move on to discussion and possible action on the WASB legislative resolutions. Ed.
All right, thanks. If you guys remember way back on December 7th, I think it was, at a board meeting, our governance committee met on December 3rd, went through the WASB resolutions and came forward with some recommendations on which ones to vote yes on. And those were 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 12. We presented that to all of you as information at that time. And then we also gave the resolutions to administration and had them review them. And they've come back with some information, and we are going to take number 8 off as a recommendation. In all cases, we are not recommending that we vote no. We are recommending that we kind of wait for more information and only vote yes on resolutions 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 12, which is in the memo, and hopefully everybody had a chance to read. So we'll be looking for a motion tonight to empower me to do so at the conference.
I'll make a motion to authorize Ed Snows, the School District of Milton's WASB delegate, to vote for approval of resolutions 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 12 at the delegate assembly as presented.
I'll second.
So I have a motion from Rick, a second from Tracy. Although, any other questions?
And that, before we vote, I just wanted to, I don't think we need this as part of the motion, but I think the board needs to empower Ed to be able to make decisions. There's going to be amendments on all of these. So Ed, I trust you to make the right choice. And I think we all feel the same way. So.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. And to what Rick's talking about is there will be a motion to approve and vote yes or no. And there'll be several school districts, there are a ton of them. And somebody will stand up and argue for, against, or argue against language, which could change the scope of the resolution. So what Rick's saying is it is a little bit fluid. My personal stance on it will be if it goes against the spirit of the original one too much, I just won't vote. I'll stay away because I really feel it's important that we're all on the same page. And what I will also do is do my best to capture did it pass, did it not pass, and how much it changed, and bring that back in a memo.
Sorry. And I do like how in the comments, it does say like possible, which is important because if they do change the spirit of what that is meant to be, appreciate your transparency with that.
That was actually a lot of the administration, so thank you to them. And before we do the vote, I just shout out to the administration and put time into this. This is kind of our first effort on this, and their insight was invaluable. And Rich and I talked about including them sooner next year. I think their opinions are very, very, very important. So thank you to the administration.
So I have a motion from Rick and a second from Tracy on the floor. Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and thank you, Ed, for representing us.
Thank
at
you.
The delegate assembly. Next, discussion and possible action on the 25-26 certified staff overload proposal.
Okay. If you recall back to last year on December 15th, administration presented the board with information regarding 2 unfilled teaching positions, along with a proposed framework to compensate staff who have assumed additional responsibilities since the beginning of the school year, while the district continues efforts to fill these vacancies. And so then this memo outlines the 3 employees that are working to fulfill those responsibilities while those jobs are posted. Administration is going through the hiring process. And so what we are proposing here is to pay 10%, up to 10% of that salary of those individuals. And in the executive content is the dollar amounts for the board to review. So any questions regarding the memo or the memo that we had talked about back on December 15th?
Chris, when you say up to 10%, is that based on if we fill those positions and kind of?
Correct. If we don't fill them at all for this school year, it would be 10% of their salary.
Sure.
And so if we fill them next week, we would work with Deborah in our payroll office and then be able to calculate exactly what that daily rate is from the beginning of the school year till when that position was filled.
Thank you.
Chris, just for clarity on the open occupational therapist, are there 2 vacancies?
No, there is 1 vacancy with 2 people helping to fulfill that responsibility of that open vacancy and do their own role.
And then similar on the other one, there's 1 vacancy?
Correct.
So explain the rationale of the 10% for both. If it's only 1 open role, would it not be split in half?
Whitney, can you help me with the workload for the occupational therapist?
Yeah, so the workload that they're doing.
Whitney, can you go up to the mic, please? Thank you.
The workload that they're doing right now, they've been doing since the beginning of this year. And so if we, by adding another position, that would give them what they're supposed to have for caseloads of what DPI says that we need our caseloads to be at. So they've both been far beyond what their caseload is expected to be for the entire year. Can I grab them? Yeah.
So while we wait, Chris or Whitney or whoever can, I just please extend a thank you to those 3 people for carrying action. It's a very important work, and we'll figure something out here financially, but I really want to extend a thank you because that's important work. It needs to get done, and I'm glad that somebody was willing to step up and do it.
Right. Thank you, Ed. Yeah, we'll definitely let them know. And I think one point it's important to note that they're different. You have an occupational therapist versus our advanced learning teacher, and totally separate roles, and based off of what the recommendation came from student services and then the teaching and learning department. And then Whitney will have those numbers here shortly.
So currently we have 105 students who are receiving OT services. So if that breaks down to about 52 students on each of their caseloads, which we have capped at 35. So they're both almost double what their caseload is expected to be at this point.
Does that answer your question, Tracy? Are we
It
good?
does. Thank you.
Okay.
One other important note I'd like to mention too is that these are already budgeted dollars. This is not new money. So this is what we would have paid those staff members if we had hired them for the first day of school.
Any other questions?
I just have one more. So all three of those are full-time employees as of right now?
That is correct.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve compensation for the above certified staff members not to exceed 10% of their current annual salaries.
I have a motion from John, a second from Rick. Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. On to our miscellaneous items, action on staffing reports.
I'll move to approve the staffing report as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Tracy, a second from John. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any questions on the monthly financial report?
No, but I would like to thank the admin team for putting that together for the board to review. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ross, for that. Next, we'll go on to action on gifts and donations.
Second.
I have a motion from Rick, a second from John. Any other questions, comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And meeting dates, upcoming committee meetings.
We have a few upcoming committee meetings and other events. A week from today, we have a finance committee meeting. That's on Monday, January 19th at 6:30 p.m. Already mentioned, but the State School Board Association Education Convention is January 21st through 23rd in Milwaukee. The next regularly scheduled board meeting is on Monday, January 26th. Following that board meeting, we will have our data workshop. So that also will be on Monday, January 26th, following the regular board meeting. And we just scheduled a governance committee meeting for Monday, February 2nd at 6:30 p.m.
And just a reminder, we have the hiring committee meeting after this meeting.
Yes.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion from Tracy, a second from Ed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you all. For the hiring committee, we are moving down to the conference room to meet with Scott.